History of the United States. Famous Americans. Benjamin Franklin. Introduction. Benjamin Franklin was one of the founding fathers of the United States and an important leader during the American Revolution. He tried to get the American colonies to unite against England, and later helped to write the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. He wrote books and printed newspapers, and he helped set up Philadelphia's fire department and the University of Pennsylvania. He was also a very intelligent man who loved science and invented many interesting things. Birth and childhood. Benjamin Franklin was born in Boston, Massachusetts in 1706. His father's name was Josiah Franklin, and his mother's name was Abiah Folger Franklin. He had 9 brothers and sisters. His parents did not have much money, so he was not able to finish school. How did he become so intelligent? By reading. As a young boy, he taught himself by reading many books. When he was 12 years old, he started working for his older brother, James, who printed newspapers. This is how Franklin learned the printing trade. Young adulthood. Franklin was not allowed to write for his brother's newspaper, so Franklin came up with a pseudonym. This is a fake name. He used the name Mrs. Silence Dogood. His brother was angry when he found out what Franklin had done. So, at age 17, Franklin ran away to Philadelphia, where he worked in printing shops. Several years later, he started the Library Company of Philadelphia. Books were expensive, so this way people could pay just a little money, and more books could then be added to the new library. Newspapers and books. While he was setting up the Library Company of Philadelphia, Franklin continued to work in the printing business. He started a newspaper called the Pennsylvania Gazette. In this newspaper, Franklin was able to share his thoughts about various things, and soon it became the most popular newspaper in all the 13 American colonies. He also wrote Poor Richard's Almanac. An almanac is written once a year and gives helpful information like the weather and planting dates for farmers. Fire Company. Benjamin Franklin started the Union Fire Company in 1736. It was sometimes called Benjamin Franklin's Bucket Brigade. This was one of the first volunteer firefighting companies in the American colonies, what were later to become the United States. Volunteer means that the firefighters were not paid. There were 30 members, and they each agreed to pay for 6 leather buckets to carry water to help put out fires. Later, as the company grew, it had 250 buckets, 13 ladders, and a horse-drawn fire engine. The University of Pennsylvania. Benjamin Franklin was very interested in education. He and 2 of his friends talked about creating a college. At this time, classes were often taught in Latin, so they decided that English would be used in their new college. They called their new college the College of Philadelphia. Later, it became the University of Pennsylvania, which is a well-known university today. Franklin also helped create the Pennsylvania Hospital, the first hospital in what was later to become the United States. Colonial unity. Before the American Revolution began, the 13 colonies were independent from each other. There was no unity between them. One of the first times people from each of the colonies met was to talk about better relations with Native Americans. Later, the colonies became unhappy about England forcing them to pay taxes. Benjamin Franklin thought it was important for the colonies to join together as one group. In his newspaper, he wrote, "Join or die," hoping to get all the colonies to join as one against England. Slavery. Many immigrants arrived in the New World with slaves that they had brought with them. During Benjamin Franklin's time in Philadelphia, many people owned slaves. He owned 7 slaves. Some of them worked in his house, and some worked in his shop. But later on in life, he became an abolitionist, meaning someone who was against slavery. He even talked about opening a school for black slaves in Philadelphia. By 1770, when he was 64 years old, he had given freedom to all of his slaves. The American Revolution. England forced people in the 13 American colonies to pay taxes. One tax was called the stamp tax. This tax made the colonists angry. Benjamin Franklin visited England and tried to get the English government to give up the stamp tax idea. He was successful, and because of this, he became very popular in the colonies. He started to write things in favor of the colonies and against England. The colonies began to go to war with England, and Franklin helped to write the Declaration of Independence. The United States Constitution. After the colonies won the American Revolutionary War and gained its independence from England, the colonial leaders met to figure out what was best for the new nation. This meeting was called the Constitutional Convention. It is sometimes called the Philadelphia Convention because it was held in Philadelphia. Here, Franklin and other founding fathers created the United States Constitution. This document shows what kind of government the founding fathers thought best for the new nation. The Great Inventor. Benjamin Franklin is known for many things, but maybe he is best known as the inventor of useful things. Why did he invent so many things? He was curious, and he wanted to help make people's lives better. He invented the lightning rod. This helps make lightning go from a roof safely down to the ground during a storm. When he flew a kite during a lightning storm, he proved that lightning is a kind of electricity. He also invented bifocal glasses, the Franklin stove, and a musical instrument called the glass harmonica. How America remembers Benjamin Franklin. America remembers Benjamin Franklin as an important founding father, as an inventor, and as a man with many talents and many interests. His face appears on the $100 bill. Because he was a postmaster, his face also appears on many different kinds of postage stamps. Many things have been named after him. Counties in 16 states, a city, a college, a bridge, a science museum, a football field, a highway, a chain of stores, several United States Navy ships, including 2 aircraft carriers, and a tree. Interesting facts. Benjamin Franklin was one of 5 founding fathers who together wrote the Declaration of Independence. The other 4 were John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, Robert Livingston, and Roger Sherman. Before Franklin started the Pennsylvania Hospital, there was no help for poor people who were sick. This first hospital became the model for hospitals built later in the United States. Some of Franklin's inventions include bifocal glasses, a chair that could be changed into a stepladder, the Franklin stove, the glass harmonica, lightning rods, the odometer, a reading chair with a foot-powered fan, and swimming fins. Franklin never made any money from his many inventions. Instead, he thought of them as gifts to other human beings. Before Franklin started the Library Company of Philadelphia, only wealthy people could afford to read books. His company was the beginning of what we know today as the public library. Franklin taught himself how to speak 5 different languages, including French, German, Italian, Latin, and Spanish. Interesting facts. As postmaster, Franklin came up with new ideas, like regular mail routes, many of which are still used by the United States Post Office today. In addition to starting the Union Fire Company, the first volunteer fire department in Philadelphia, Franklin also created the idea of fire insurance, where people paid a fee to have their things repaired or replaced if damaged by fire. During his lifetime, Franklin held quite a few different jobs, including bookstore owner, inventor, librarian, postmaster, politician, printer, scientist, soldier, volunteer firefighter, and writer. Franklin thought that the turkey should be America's national bird instead of the bald eagle.